brothers and sisters. I'm Pastor Luther from Incarnation Lutheran Church, and I want to welcome you to our evening devotions this evening. We hope that you'll join us tonight and in the nights that follow. We have a wide range of activities online for you to participate in, and invite you to go to our website, which is godamong.us, godamong.us, and click on the little link that says ILC Online Activities. There you'll find links to the Bible studies that we have, you'll find links to the Zoom meetings that we have, et cetera, including these online devotions, including an indication of how to get the early morning Bible readings, including the worship time and so forth. So you're invited to participate with us, and I'm glad you're here tonight. This evening, I'm going to share with you a text from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14. It's a little bit on the longish side, but it has to do with eating, and it has to do with misfits, and it has to do with belonging to a group and so forth, and wanting to talk a little bit about where we're at. So I'm going to be reading Luke chapter 14, beginning with the 7th verse, reading all the way through to the 24th verse. Luke 14, 7 to 24. He went on to tell a story to the guests around the table. Noticing how each had tried to elbow into the place of honor, he said, "When someone invites you to dinner, don't take the place of honor. Somebody more important than you might have been invited by the host. Then he'll come and call out in front of everybody, 'You're in the wrong place. The place of honor belongs to this man.' Red-faced, you'll have to make your way to the very last table, the only place left. When you're invited to dinner, go and sit at the last place. Then, when the host comes, he may very well say, 'Friend, come up to the front.' That will give the dinner guests something to talk about. What I'm saying is this. If you walk around with your nose in the air, you're going to end up flat on your face. But if you're content to be simply yourself, you will become more than yourself." Then he turned to the host. "The next time you put on a dinner, don't just invite your friends and family and rich neighbors, the kind of people who will return the favor. Invite some people who never get invited out, the misfits from the wrong side of the tracks. You'll be and experience a blessing. They won't be able to return the favor, but the favor will be returned. Oh, how it will be returned at the resurrection of God's people." Now that triggered a response from the guests. How fortunate the one who gets to eat dinner in God's kingdom. Jesus followed up, "Yes, for there was once a man who threw a great dinner party and invited many. When it was time for dinner, he sent out a servant to the invited guests, saying, 'Come on in, food's on the table.' They all began to beg off, one after another, making excuses. The first said, 'I bought a piece of property and need to look it over. Send my regrets.' Another said, 'I just bought 5 teams of oxen and I really need to check them out. Send my regrets.' And yet another said, 'I just got married and need to get home to my wife.' The servant went back and told the master what had happened. He was outraged and told the servant, 'Quickly, get out into the city streets and alleys, collect all who look like they need a square meal, all the misfits and homeless and wretched you can lay your hands on. Bring them here.' The servant reported back, 'Master, I did what you commanded, and there's still room.' The master said, 'Then go to the country roads. Whoever you find, drag them in. I want my house full.' Let me tell you, not one of those originally invited is going to get so much as a bite at my dinner party." We are a people who are blessed. We have many things that concern us at this time, many things that worry us, many things for which we are vilifying one another, particular groups. And it occurred to me that we're missing our focus a wee bit. There are some important elements that have been raised, some important ideas that have been raised, but we need to think more carefully about this whole notion of blame. Who do we get to blame? Who do we get to hold responsible for the ills of society? I'm going to talk more about that in this week's sermon, but I was inspired today by a video message that I'm hoping you'll see on Sunday from Sophie Meteke. Sophie is a graduate student in theology at the Université Protestante de l'Afrique Centrale in Yaoundé, Cameroon, and is also working part-time on our behalf at the Foyer de l'Espérance with the homeless girls, the street girls, whose lives are in total turmoil right now. She's giving us accounting of what's going on, of the challenges they face, of the challenges that they're going to face in the future, because nothing is going back to normal the way that it used to be. Nothing that was expected is going to happen in the way that we had envisioned it might. And so now there are deficiencies all over the place. And she's worried about the girls, as am I. These children who have started with nothing, who are involved in all kinds of challenges and problems, it's getting worse because they have no support. There's no social net there to catch them at all. And those that have had babies, they're even more lost. Why? Well, the home that we have for the street girls is operated in conjunction with a Catholic group there run by a Jesuit priest. And it's a beautiful project looking after street kids. There's 4 big group homes for boys, but the one that we're working with is for girls. But the problem that the priest has as the director of this overarching thing is that we don't have the funds that would be necessary. We don't have the resources that would be necessary to help a pregnant young woman, a pregnant girl. Moreover, we don't have the resources to look after babies and children. We just don't have it. And so when a girl becomes pregnant, and girls that live on the street sadly often do, they're pushed away, they're excluded, they're turned away from the center, they're turned away from the foyer. They're turned away with a heavy heart because none of the nuns that work there, not Sophie, not me, not anybody else, not even the priest who's in charge, wants to do that, but we just can't help them. And so we're in effect sending a helpless, homeless kid back onto the street, and now with a baby. The need is so powerfully great there. The need is so overwhelming there that we just don't know what to make of it. But I want to remind you that the world is such a big place, and we have challenges and issues here that we need to address, and we're going to address. And I'm excited by what our council is doing in terms of looking at some of the things we're looking at, inequalities that exist socially that we want to address in real life, in real terms. Not to blame anybody, not to point fingers at anybody, but to take upon ourselves responsibility for sin that resides within each of us. In taking responsibility for that sin, to seek to find resolution, to seek to find ways in which we can be better servants, serving God in the service of all God's children. That's the kind of equality we want to seek to have. But in the process of doing that, we need to remember those people who are around us, maybe not near to us, but possibly far from us, but people that we know. We need to remember when they're helpless. We need to remember when they're helpless because we can help. We need to remember when they're homeless because maybe, just maybe, we can help. This congregation has been a profound blessing to so many people. We have offered support and food and help in so many ways with the COVID Relief Fund, with the Pastor's Discretionary Fund. In all of these ways, we're able to support people whose livelihoods have been threatened in these times. We offer support to people from all walks of life, from all ethnicities, from all circumstances, and indeed from many different countries. These are things of which you should be proud. We've done this in the midst of our blessing. We've been able to reach out to people without such blessing. And I can tell you just innumerable stories about all these things, but I won't do that tonight. We have been a blessing, but I want us to remember that it is our calling to continue to be a blessing, not just to focus inwardly, because hamartia is missing the mark, is to turn inward, and that is the definition of sin. I want us to remember that we are called upon, even in the midst of our challenges, and Lord knows we have challenges now, but we are called upon to look outwards to those whose needs are greater than ours, to those whom we can help, because we can. I know we can. I know we have a heart to do that. I know we have encouragement to do that. And we are blessed to be able to do that. We have a wonderful local mission committee that does so many things. Nancy Henroyd and Joyce Miller and Jan Bailey and Anna Johnson and just a ton of people are involved in helping to shelter the homeless, helping to feed the hungry, right here in our own communities, helping to do that. There are people who have traveled overseas to India and to Africa and Southeast Asia, things that we've done that have helped people who would otherwise not have received the help because nobody sees them. But God has blessed us with occasional glimpses into the lives of people for whom we can be a blessing. And so, brothers and sisters, tonight, on this night with so many things distracting us, remember, you've been called upon to be a blessing. To remember that you've been blessed, but you've been called upon to be a blessing too, even in the midst of all this confusion. You've been called upon to be a blessing because you have been blessed and you can be a blessing. Let's do that together. Let's remember that together, because seeking to be that blessing, being that blessing in real life, not by vaunting ourselves, but by humbling ourselves, seeking to be that blessing, will find us blessed. And that gives life. And we need a little bit of life right now. Let's bow our heads in prayer. Good, gracious, and merciful Lord, we give you thanks for the blessing that you've offered us. We give you thanks for the opportunities that you give us to serve you. Help us to embrace them, to take advantage of them, and to do that which you'd have us do. Help us to reach out in love to all of your children, not blaming anybody for anybody else's problems, but recognizing within us, within each of us, within each and every one of us, indeed all of us, sin. Sin is a problem, and sin is something with which we all have to deal. It's not about pointing fingers, it's about embracing one another and seeking to find, with repentant hearts, a solution to the things that have gone wrong, the things that we've done wrong. And through all of that, to know that we can be a blessing. We can be a blessing to those people around us who aren't blessed as are we. Help us, Lord, to do that. In your holy name we pray. Amen. So, brothers and sisters, thank you once again. I'm Pastor Luther from Incarnation, and we look forward to having you on our evening devotions. Sunday morning worship is at 10 a.m., and we've just got a lot of stuff going on. We continue to have ongoing conversations about when we can open again. We have to have all the right things in place, but we're looking forward to the time that we can see each other face to face in the very near future. So thank you for joining us, and have a good night. Good night.